PA School Personal Statement workshop. It is super duper extremely important. We're applying to PA school. So whoever's in here on TikTok, whoever's in here in the presentation, I'm Boris. I'm a physician assistant. This is the St. John's University Pre-PA Club. So we're going to do this in conjunction with them. The purpose of today's presentation, that's going to be an hour and it is interactive, is to really teach you guys how to write a PA school personal statement, because we know that is a very important part of your presentation, of your application. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to, just about probably a 5-minute presentation, and then I really want some participation if you guys don't mind. So first thing I want to draw your attention to is this rubric. Let's go with this one first. All right, so those of you who are applying to PA school, you know that there's some components that everybody knows about, and then there's some that people don't really think about until they're really filling out CASPA. So the ones that everyone knows about, GPA, patient care experience, volunteer hours, and community service hours. It's like, give me the stats. What stats do I need? What numbers do I need to be guaranteed to get in, right? Not exactly how it works. So even with good stats, you still have to have an excellent personal statement, still have to have good letters of recommendation, all this other stuff that's part of the application. So today we are focusing on this guy, but I want to show you the rubrics just to see how important this guy actually is. All right. So this is the rubric I always reference just because it's the prettiest. Not every rubric is the same, but this PA program, this is what they do when they review an application. First things first, they want to see if you are even qualified, right? So if you're not qualified, you're disqualified, you don't meet the minimums for one reason or another, you know, they don't really have to review your application. That's one less application to review. So are the transcripts submitted? Is your application verified? Do you have the right prerequisites? Do you have the right grades and the right timing for these? Do you have your letters of recommendation? Is your personal statement completed, which should be for everybody? And do you have the minimum number of hours? You know, this is obviously quite low. Some programs are higher. Then they look at your GPA. You see 20 points apiece for cumulative and science. Then they look at your personal statement. As you can see, also 20 points. This right here, this might blow your mind, but your personal statement is worth on this rubric as much as a cumulative GPA or a science GPA. So it's not an afterthought. It's the end of your application. It's the last thing you work on, but it's not an afterthought. It is super duper extremely important. It's worth as much as the GPA, okay? Next, after that, letters of recommendation, also super important. Community engagement for this particular school, also super important. But today we're focusing on this, personal statement. So how do you get a 20-point personal statement? How do you get a 10 out of 10 excellent personal statement? In this school's opinion, you need to demonstrate a strong statement around the desire to be a PA. So actually answer the question, right? Why do you want to be a PA? Sarah says, thank you. You are welcome, Sarah. So why do you want to be a PA? And understand the scope of practice of a PA. Now, do you actually have to say, I want to be a PA because X, Y, and Z? Not really. You want to be more smooth than that. And do you actually have to like define what a PA is in the scope of practice? Again, more smooth than that. The way you do that is through examples from your own life, your shadowing, your work. Do you understand this stuff? And do you have strong commitment to being a PA, and why? That's really it. This, I personally think, is not necessarily something you really need to include quite as much, identification of your strengths and weaknesses. However, you do want to demonstrate growth. You do want to demonstrate maturity and readiness for such a difficult program. Okay? So this, I wouldn't say as strict as this, but I would still definitely talk about your personal growth. If you had any academic challenges, personal challenges, you do want to talk about those in a very positive way. Is this available online? We are currently online, Miss Marissa. But yeah, after this is done, I should be able to post it. All right. So that's just one school. We're going to look at one more rubric, and then we're going to go into how do you actually do this. So this is Widener University. This is Damon University. I don't know why I'm only picking Pennsylvania schools, but, you know, just bear with me. Also, not every school's rubric is available online. I can't really find many, and these two are, so I want to go with these. So this one, the essay. So this one doesn't go 10 points, 20 points, you know, like the other one. This one goes either disqualified, so -2 points, which is super harsh, 0, 1, or 2. Obviously, you want 2. So just looking a little closer right here, what's a high standard GPA for this program? 3.667. So 3.666 and below is lower standard. up to 3.3 is 0. And then if you have a less than a 3.0, you're just straight up disqualified. So that's how this program works. Where are we? There's my gimbal. Okay, cool. So what is a 2 out of 2 personal statement for this particular program? So this one says, 1 second. Okay, here we go. So highest level recommendation. Very knowledgeable about the demands of the program and the profession, speaks directly to the intellect and sense of responsibility, excellent or average score of excellent. Sorry, those are actually recommendations. For the essay, honestly, it doesn't actually even say anything for 2, which I think is kind of strange. This right here, for 1, well-written, no mechanical errors, no factual errors, demonstrates empathy and or appropriate motivation. So a little bit different, or actually I would say very different from the other one. All right. So well-written, no spacing, no grammatical errors. That should be like pretty much minimum for anybody. Demonstrates empathy, shows that you're a caring person, and also appropriate motivation for becoming a PA. So I would probably say again, clear demonstration of why you want to be a PA and understanding of the scope of practice. That's essentially all you really need for a solid essay. So how would I write a solid PA school personal statement? Let me show you. Okay. So the way you do this is I would start with the basic 5-paragraph essay that we all learn from grade school all the way onward. Intro, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Now, once you start planning this and once you start writing, you might realize that your intro could be split up into 2 different things. You might realize that maybe one of these topics that you choose for a body paragraph might need to be longer. This might need to be longer than this. You might need to only have 2 body paragraphs. You might want to have 5. You don't know exactly, but when I say start from the basics, it basically helps you just organize your thoughts from the very beginning, and then you can play with it, use some more artistic license, do different things later. And also, guys, am I sharing my screen here?
I don't see it.
Yeah, me neither.
So I never shared my screen, did I?
No.
I am so sorry. Okay, so just very, very quickly, that's the rubric I was talking about, and then that's the other one, just talking about how many points a personal statement is worth. All right, and if you guys don't see something or if I'm not explaining something, please chime in or be like, hey, dude, you're not even sharing the rubric. So I'm very sorry about that. But yeah, so this is what I was talking about with the different kinds of rubrics and how they grade their essays. They're a little bit different. But, so how would I go about actually writing a PA school personal statement? So, starting with this 5-paragraph format. The intro, I would actually start thinking about a little later. A lot of people like to write their essay from the intro beginning. So I'm okay with that because this is going to be your attention grabber. So I know a lot of people, when they start thinking about their essay, this is the first thing they think about. And I don't want to take away from that. So I'm going to totally allow it and say the first thing you can possibly think about is your attention grabber. What's the most impactful thing? What's the most emotional thing? The most powerful thing? The most wise thing? Or a quote or a story? What is the first thing that comes up to you? When you think about writing your essay, you can totally jot that down. I don't want you to write the whole paragraph. I don't want you to go too overboard, but just kind of get your thoughts out, like what could I possibly use as an attention grabber? What is something that's very interesting about my application and my lived experience as someone who wants to be a PA? Next, or where I would actually recommend you start if you don't know this, is your 3 biggest reasons for wanting to be a PA. If you just sit down in a quiet room, turn off TikTok, no, not you guys who are on the live, but in general, turn off TikTok, turn off Instagram, turn off everything and just think, why am I doing this? This is a very long journey. It's an extremely competitive program. I'm going to spend, thousands of dollars and maybe many years even trying to get in. Why do I want to do this? Why is this so important to me? Can I see myself doing any other career? No. Why? Think about it. Usually, not always, but usually, the first paragraph is less why PA and a little bit more why medicine. So why do I even want to practice medicine? Why do I want to work in the medical field? Some of the very common reasons for this are I had a family member who had an experience in the medical field. They were very sick. They got injured, something like that. I personally, I'm diabetic. I broke a leg when I was 5, some early exposure to the medical field. All of those are possibilities. There's lots and lots of other ones, but that could certainly be it. My parent was a doctor, a dentist, a nurse, and I was just been around medicine my whole life. Those are all very common. And just because they're common doesn't mean you can't use them. Those are just some ideas for why medicine. Then here, paragraph 2, a lot of times then it's kind of more why PA. So like here, it's why medicine? Why do I even want to practice this? Then it's when did I discover the PA profession? How? And why is this profession perfect for me? Now, you don't have to give all the facts about like, oh, I was a freshman and I was Googling medical jobs and I found PA. Like, you don't really have to waste your characters doing that unless it's very relevant, but you can certainly talk about it. All right, so why PA specifically? Is it the lateral mobility? Is it the shorter training allowing you to focus on other things? Is it in the American healthcare system that PAs just simply are allowed more time with the patient because they're not slotted to see as many patients as a physician? What is it for you? What's very important here is it's why PA, not why not other specialties or other professions. So you don't want to say like, oh, doctors don't get to spend any time with patients and that's why I want to be a PA. Remember, the essay is not why not MD, the essay is why PA. Okay? So again, very important not to disparage other professions. But this is basically mostly why PA, and apologize for my very slow typing here, but I've got TikTok in one hand here. So why PA specifically? Why this job specifically? What about this job do you like more than any other medical job? So a lot of times people will be very general. They'll be like, oh, I want to care for people, or I want to help people, or I want to do maybe even medical procedures, surgical procedures. I want time to spend with people and show them empathy. You could do that with a lot of different medical jobs. Why PA? What is so special about this career? Another one that I didn't mention is that PAs are usually utilized in this country as a lower cost option for primary care. So we really get to help a lot of underserved populations. That's a very big one that a lot of people definitely talk about if it's genuine and honest for you. Now, paragraph 3 is where even in this kind of more, I would say, classic format, I think you have a lot of leeway because this could be very specific for you. You could either talk more about one of these or one of these. Paragraph 3 is also a great place to talk about academic challenges. Now, if you talk about challenges, you also want to talk about overcoming those challenges. So maybe you struggled, maybe you got a C, maybe you got an F. You could explain that briefly. Talk about what you learned and how it's never going to happen again in PA school. Because you get an F in undergrad, okay, your undergrad GPA goes down a little bit. You get an F in PA school, you're out. Straight up. Sometimes there's remediation. Sometimes you can get recycled to the previous class, but it's a much bigger deal to fail a class or to get a poor grade in PA school than it is in undergrad. So basically, you need to convince the admissions folks why you're not going to fail. And the way you convince them is with specific examples. I got a C freshman year. I got a D freshman year. I realized I could never do that again. Here's exactly how I studied. Here's how I improved. Here's exactly what I did. And if I struggle again in PA school, this is what I'm going to do. So that's something that you could possibly do in paragraph 3. Another thing is something more recent. You know, maybe you're a reapplicant. You could talk about, you know, in the last year or 2 years since I applied last, I grew in this way. I got these experiences, X, Y, and Z, whatever is important for you. So body paragraph 3, classically at least, is kind of more like why I'm ready for PA school. I've grown as a person. I've grown as a student. Why I feel ready now. So why I'm ready. Okay. So again, it doesn't have to be this exact format. It can be any combination of these, but this is pretty classic. If you have absolutely no idea where to start, you're totally stuck, at least start with these 3 ideas and take it from there. You can totally change later, but at least kind of use this for your brainstorming and start thinking this way. Now, your intro, obviously an attention grabber. You know, to grab the reader's attention, to really get them interested, that kind of thing. Summer said my For You page knows me so well. We're very happy to have you, Summer. So attention grabber, and then I'm going to capitalize brief because you don't want to go too long in the intro paragraph. Brief intro to one or more primary themes. Primary themes are just the main ideas, right? So this is a primary theme, that's a primary theme, that's a primary theme. So the main ideas, you know, each body paragraph has one main idea. Just introduce one, maybe the next one you're going to talk about, or even all of them, that's fine. Conclusion is going to be kind of the same as the intro in that you're not really bringing up any new ideas. You're just going to kind of summarize briefly Primary themes. Again, briefly. And I would really like to put no new information in the conclusion. So that is the basic template for writing your personal statement. All right. So in about a minute after you digest all of this, I'm going to ask for some volunteers from the St. John's Club to see if anybody wants to be brave enough to go through this process with me live. You don't have to turn your camera on. You don't have to have your name. I don't want to broadcast this to TikTok if you don't want to. But I do want to kind of work with this with a real example to really help people learn. Also, if somebody on TikTok can hit the like button right now, please. We're at 666 and I do not want that number on my, there we go. Thank you. Okay. I don't like that number. Okay. Let's get an example, please. So who at St. John's is brave enough to use their own life, their own essay to start doing this with me? And if it's no one, that's okay. Anybody at all?
Is there a way I can send you my letter so you can take a look at it and see how it is?
Are you sure you want to broadcast your the letter that you're working on? Because we're live right now, about 70 people in here.
I guess I'm okay with it. Cause do you think people will plagiarize it?
I don't think so, but if I usually try not to share anything that's for this current application cycle. We could do just one paragraph, or we could very briefly do it, or I could even shut off the live, honestly.
So what if I just send you my personal essay I'm currently working on, and then you just decide what do you think it's appropriate to say live?
Yeah, that's fine. No one's going to copy it word for word. I'm not sharing the PDF. So if you're comfortable with that, we can totally take a quick look at it. I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah. Is there a way I can get your email?
Yeah. Boris the PA, BorisThepa @gmail.com. And as soon as we get that, we can take a look at it together. So this isn't going to be writing it from the ground up. This is going to be kind of live editing a personal statement that somebody is sending me. More than happy to do that. And just go ahead and let me know when you've sent it.
Okay.
All right. And so while you're working on that, just go ahead and chime in whenever you're ready, and I'll go take a look at it. So you have a YouTube channel? Yes, I do. It's Personal Statement Pros. The link is in the bio on TikTok. Okay. So some examples here for attention grabber for the intro. A lot of times it's a story. Oh, I'm sorry, you already sent it?
Yes, I have.
Beautiful. Let's see. I have not received it yet. Let's see. And you attached it and everything, so it might just be taking a minute. So this could be an example. It could be a patient care experience story. Could be while you were shadowing. Could be the very moment you decided PA was right, or it could be the very moment you decided medicine was right, or just something that got you thinking about it. There's no, perfect way about it. It's whatever it is for you. If it's genuine, if it's whatever is important to you, that's fine. Are you sure you got my email right? BORISTE or THEPA?
Yeah, I did. Your your profile picture also showed up as well.
Oh, perfect. All right, so
I'm not sure why is it not being sent over.
Did it maybe go to my spam? The chance it went. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why Gary went to spam. He's not spam. Let's see. There you are. Okay. So let's do this. Okay. So this one, I'm not gonna. Actually, I guess I could. I could throw it in Google Docs and make some quick comments on it. I'm just only typing with one hand. So we're gonna just kind of focus on content here. All right. So when I get a personal statement, the very, very first thing I do, Gary, just stay on with me here. Do you know how many characters you can have as a max?
I don't. I just know that's 1 page max, I was told.
It's 5,000. So if
Okay.
you log into Caspa and you start, copy pasting your personal statement, it's 5,000. So let's see. So the very first thing, Command All if you're on Mac, Control All if you're on Windows. And it's only got 2,500 characters. So this is actually super duper short. So I don't know who told you one page, but yeah, it's 5,000 characters. So you can actually double the length of this thing and you'll be okay. All right. So let's see what Gary came up with. So we've got, how's your daughter? We started with a quote, an actual situation. 1 second. I'm just going to hold this because my gimbal is running out of battery. Okay. So, and also before I even get into it, also I like to do this, Command find and replace. And you want to find all the double spaces. This helps you fix your spacing. So spacebar. And you can see he's got 0 because Gary was really good at this. But if you have any 2 spaces where there should be 1, you literally just replace it with 1 and say replace all. So just a very common mistake that you can fix like that. Okay, so let's get into this personal statement. So it says, how's your daughter? That simple question reflected the depth of her relationship with her patients. I'm really curious to know who her is, but we'll keep reading for a second. It wasn't just about medical care, semicolon. It was about trust, humanity, and treating the person as a whole. My provider, Lucy, can remember details about her patients' lives and seemingly build connections with them that extend beyond just their name on a waiting list. Okay, so basically you're saying Lucy impacted you quite well. You really liked how she treated her patients. She sees them as a person, not just a number. I definitely like that. I'm going to do a few little pedantic things here, but that I think will make it flow better. So how's your daughter? That simple question reflected the depth of, I would really rather you introduce Lucy before you start using pronouns. So I would really like you to say Lucy's or the providers or something like that. So I'm not going to actually change anything. I'm just going to say Lucy instead of her. And again, I'm just typing very briefly because I only have one hand. So that simple question reflected the depth of Lucy's relationship with her patients. It wasn't just about medical care. I definitely wouldn't put a semicolon there. I would say comma. Right. It wasn't just about medical care. It was about trust, humanity, and treating the person as a whole. I love that. My provider. What do you mean by my provider? Did you work with this person?
She was my provider before I started shadowing her. So whenever she was basically like the family doctor. Well, she's a nurse practitioner, but she's like who's been taking care of my entire family basically.
Okay.
Like annual checkups, I would go to her.
So that's what you mean by my provider. So my provider, yes. Lucy, can remember details about her patients' lives and seemingly build connections with them that extend beyond just their name on a waiting list. Okay. So this sentence I'm not as big a fan of, but let me see what it is in the context of the whole paragraph, and treating the person as a whole. So do you think this adds anything that these other two things didn't?
I think it explains more about like what type of person she is and what type of role model I was looking up to and what I gained from like that one sentence, so to say. I think that's what was going through my head when I was writing this.
I think the more important thing to say is what you just said, how she's been your role model basically since you were a kiddo. You know? Because I think, me personally, I think that you already basically said this. You said that she's treating the person as a whole, she's respecting their humanity, and in this next sentence, you're saying essentially the same thing. She's building connection that is beyond, a person's name on a waiting list, which to me is essentially the same thing. She remembers details. It would be good if you had a specific example about that, but, this actually is kind of what you already did. How's your daughter? So in this sentence, me personally, I would, one sec, let me just put this down for 2 seconds.
Hey, Boris,
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think because we started our meeting a little bit earlier, I think WebEx is about to close the entire meeting down. So if this does end, just rejoin. And to all the members, if this meeting just does close on you, just rejoin the same link.
Oh, sure. And then you can just kind of do the whole meeting all over again from the same meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll just
All right,
rejoin
so
if it kicks us
gonna
out.
it's gonna shut off in 30 seconds. So
Oh.
if
Okay, I'll
you guys
just...
still have the link, just re-click the link. It's gonna take you right back to here.
Got it. Okay, so I'll just do that right now and just talk to the TikTok folks for a second. So I can just exit and then click the link again?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So TikTok folks, sorry about that little interruption. So I'm basically doing this as a presentation for the St. John's University Pre-PA Club. So that's why we're even here. Let's see. Actually, one sec. PSP. There we go. So that's why we're doing this. And right now we're in the middle of actually looking at an actual person's personal statement. So just kind of bear with me. Looks like the viewership already dropped way off, which I understand. But we're going to take a look at this actual PA school personal statement, how I would actually comment on it, what I would actually change about it. So I think it's quite valuable. And earlier in this meeting, we talked about, here we go. Earlier in the meeting, we talked about, how to write it from the ground up, why personal statements are so important, how much they cost, or how much they improve your application, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to wait for them to get back in, and then we're going to take a look at this personal statement some more. So I'm just going to wait for them to all kind of come in. But let's take a look at this personal statement some more here. And 6 people are waiting. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we were talking about this first paragraph here. How's your daughter? That simple question reflected the depth of... Person started with a pronoun. I never would start with a pronoun. I'd usually actually introduce the person. So in this case, it's Lucy, the nurse practitioner. So the depth of Lucy's relationship with her patients. It wasn't just about medical care. It was about trust, humanity, and treating the person as a whole. Then this right here, basically my comment here was that this sentence doesn't really add anything new. It just kind of regurgitates what was all here, maybe with a little bit more detail. And I really wanted the person to talk about how this person was a role model for him growing up. So I think that's going to be where we're going to leave off. All right, is everybody in? We're good?
Yeah, we're all here.
Everybody's here? All right, beautiful. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we could see.
Excellent. All right, so this is for, I believe it was Gary, right? Gary. Okay, so what do you think about that comment, Gary? Do you think it makes sense? Do you disagree with it? Not sure if Gary's in here or not. Okay. So this sentence right here, go ahead and chime in, Gary, if you can. So this sentence right here, after I asked Gary what he meant by this and why this sentence was important, he was talking about how this was his personal provider who took care of his whole family, as he was growing up, and how she was a role model. So I basically said, since this isn't adding anything really new, I would rewrite this sentence to say, Lucy, the NP, was your role model from a young age. So when you're writing an essay about why I want to be a PA or why I want to practice medicine at the very least, I think that instead of talking about the other person quite as much, I think it's a really good idea here to leave it off with, this basically made me want to be just like her. In her case, she's a nurse practitioner, but that's fine. So that is my comment on here. Gary, you in here yet? I can't tell if you're in here.
Yes, I am.
Beautiful. So what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And again, these are just suggestions. This is not gospel. This is just my own opinion. But that's what I would personally do in this case. So we're moving on. So then he says, I realized that I would want my provider to see me not just as a case file, but as a person, to listen to me at my most vulnerable and help me at my most painful. Definitely true. I admire the versatility, collaborative nature, and direct patient care, the physician associate role. So anytime you introduce PA, I always like to say, introduce the acronym first. PA. So that way from then on, you can just say PA instead of physician assistant or physician associate. So I admire the versatility, collaborative nature, and direct patient care the physician associate role offers. Lucy showed me that being a healthcare provider means more than just delivering treatment. Again, I don't think this should be a semicolon. I think it should be a comma. Right. It's about listening, empathizing, and advocating for others. I want to build those kinds of relationships to be the provider patients feel comfortable opening up to and confident in. Okay. Somebody said he needs to rewrite the entire personal statement in a storytelling type of way. I don't know about that. And there was a little bit of storytelling. So far, I don't agree with that. I think we're doing okay. But I think we're really just kind of focusing a lot on Lucy and a little bit less on Gary. But I do want to read through the whole thing before really restructuring anything. But so far, I think we're doing kind of okay. So at first, I didn't know which specialty suited me best. So I tried as many as I could. As a medical assistant, I've had the opportunity to work across a range of specialties, including podiatry, nephrology, cardiology, internal medicine, and oncology, alongside providers from various backgrounds such as MDs, DOs, PAs, and NPs. These diverse interactions have given me different insights into patient care and broadened my understanding of collaborative medicine. Okay, that's definitely quite good. Which specialty or which career? Which specialty as in like cardiology, dermatology, or primary care? Or do you mean like which kind of job? What were you trying to say with this?
I think it was, I guess I was just trying to say like what kind of PA I wanted to be, because, there's like all different kinds of PA. You can be a surgical PA, you can be internal medicine PA. So I think with this paragraph, it's that I didn't know which one specifically I wanted to do, but it's just that I knew what I wanted to be a PA. So I guess I could reword that a little bit better.
No criticism. I'm just curious what you meant by specialty. So you actually did mean specialty. You didn't mean like which kind of job suited you best.
No.
Okay, that's fair. Then he says, broaden my understanding of collaborative medicine. Of course, patient care was my top priority. And what are most patients scared of? When it's time to draw blood. I have seen patients faint, cry, clench their pearls when they see the needle, and it pains me when I cannot help them more. So I went around asking other medical assistants, nurses, and providers for ways to help or to make the process less painful. Now when patients tell me that their experience with me was the most painless they ever had, or now when patients tell me that their experience, I would probably delete the word when, right? Erase when. I think it would make more sense if you said, now patients tell me that their experience with me was the most painless they ever had. It makes all those hours spent training worth it. Okay. And then with over 1,000 hours of hands-on clinical experience, I've gained a strong foundation in patient care, communication, and teamwork. I'm ready to build on that foundation through more rigorous training and mentorship and become a provider that patients will want to see. Your PA program's emphasis on... So are you writing this to only one program, or what do you mean by your PA program's emphasis?
This one was mainly for St. John's PA program.
Oh,
so this was directly targeted at St. John's PA program.
Are you
applying?
Or
this letter, sorry.
I see what you're saying. So is this a secondary application, or is this your actual CASPA personal statement?
This is what I would use for my CASPA application.
Are you applying to more than one program?
I am, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So your PA program...
In my head, like, this sentence makes sense because this would be what most, if not all, the PA programs would want to aim for. So I felt like, but this is mainly targeted at St. John's, but it could be used for other programs as well.
That's fair. And I mean, the programs you apply to don't know how many other programs or which other programs you applied to. So it's okay to say. Usually you try to want to be pretty general, but I mean, if this describes every program you're applying to, I don't see why you can't just say that. That's okay. So your PA program's emphasis on high quality, cost-effective, compassionate, and accessible care to underserved patients aligns perfectly with my values and goals as a future provider. This right here, I'm curious about. And then thank you for considering my application. I'm excited for the opportunity to grow within your program and contribute to the next generation of compassionate, competent physician associates. Okay. Overall, definitely not bad. I'd love for anyone to chime in TikTok. I'd love for anyone to chime in the chat if anybody has any opinions so far. I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes here. And while people are kind of thinking about it, this last bit, most people don't do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You know, I actually had something like that in my own personal statement where I basically ended it with, you know, I humbly ask for, you know, a chance to join your program. And it obviously worked out for me. So I'm not necessarily against something like this. I think it's okay. And actually, I do think this is very well written. You know, I'm excited for the opportunity to grow within your program and contribute to the next generation of compassionate, competent physician associates. I actually really like this. This right here, one sec, what are people saying here? I think adding a story about how he made someone feel better and thought he made it less painful. Yeah, I mean, he kind of did. You didn't really talk about anyone specific when you talked about making things less painful with phlebotomy, but I see what you're saying. Sounds more like informative. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so here's my opinion. So at the very end of this, do we really understand why Gary wants to be a PA and not any other profession in the medical field, including phlebotomist? Like, Gary, what do you think? Do you think after reading this out loud, it's very, very clear that PA is the only job for you?
For me, yeah, because the target like goal that I'm trying to get across is I'm trying to let the admissions committee know the reason why I want to be a PA and what are the reasons that will allow me to succeed as a PA. The story with the phlebotomy is something that I use to show like the steps I have taken to basically develop a better patient care. If that makes sense. Like, it's one of the main examples that when like someone asks me, oh, how well are you, or like how good are you at patient care? What do you mean by you want to do good in patient care? This would be the example I would show of how much like effort I would put in knowing someone, knowing that blood draw would hurt people, and to the extent of like, basically what steps I've taken to improve that aspect of care.
Definitely. So it definitely shows that, one, you care about people, because someone who doesn't really care about people's pain won't even talk about this. Two, it shows that you're willing to put in the work and get trained and be trainable. So those are all very, very, very good things. I would certainly talk about that. I talk about it much more in the context of why it makes you want to be a PA and why you want to keep growing. But I do like that as an example. Also, somebody in TikTok mentioned they don't really like the term clench their pearls. It's more of usually a metaphor for people being a little overly dramatic. Have you actually seen someone legitimately have like pearls that they clenched, or what did you mean by this? You still there, Gary? Not sure if Gary's still there, but I'm going to comment erase on the clench the pearls situation. Did he? I don't think the ending is necessary. Oh, so somebody here commented, I don't think the ending is necessary, as well as utilizing the full amount of character count. So yeah, this essay was only 2,500 characters. You can definitely add a lot more to it. This person said, I don't think the ending is necessary. Do you mean this? No, not this. Do you mean this ending? The thank you for your consideration. I'm excited for the opportunity to grow. You can chime in if you'd like. So somebody said this, they don't think is necessary. I don't think it's necessary, but I actually kind of like it. You know, it just makes it very like a take-home message, driving the point home. You know, I thank you for considering me. I'm humble. I'm ready to grow. I actually kind of like it, honestly, but that's just my opinion. You know, like I said, not gospel, just straight up just my opinion. But yeah, this thing I would definitely get rid of. So overall for Gary's personal statement, I definitely like this. I definitely like that he's talking about his wide range of experiences, the different professions he's shadowed, the different specialties. I like all of that. I definitely like this, that he's talking about compassionate care, but that's kind of all he talked about. So this personal statement could apply to literally any medical job, up to and including, phlebotomist, physician, respiratory therapist, nurse practitioner. So I would definitely be way more specific, which is almost always the commentary I give people. So this is what I would do. And Gary, if you're still there, please feel free to chime in. So starting from the beginning, this right here, I would definitely delete the sentence, and I would make it more clear that Lucy has been somebody you've been looking up to your whole life, or, from a young age, because she was someone taking care of your whole family and she was a nurse practitioner. Then here he goes, I realized that I would want my provider to see me not just as a case file, but as a person, to listen to me at my most vulnerable. So this is more or less the third time we're repeating the same kind of sentence here, right? It wasn't just about medical care. It was about trust, humanity, and treating the person as a whole. Then it was build connections that extend beyond just their name on a waiting list. Then I want to be treated as not just a case file, but as a person. So do you guys see how this is essentially the same sentence, just written 3 times? Oh, is that Gary over there?
Yes, sorry, St. John's Wi-Fi keeps cutting out, so like.
I think we had that issue later. You're okay. And this is going to be recorded if TikTok doesn't, drop the ball again. So this should be recorded anyway. But what I was saying is this, and this are essentially the same sentence content-wise. They're written differently. Here you brought in pain, which I can see why, because you're kind of transitioning into the phlebotomy thing. But overall, these are the same sentence. So that's why I really want to change this one into making it clear that Lucy was somebody that you looked up to. This, I would probably just go ahead and delete because it really doesn't add anything new. Then this right here. Now we're talking about YPA. So I definitely would like to transition a little bit more smoothly, as in like not give the reader whiplash when they're reading this and then they suddenly go, I admire the versatility of the PA profession. It's like, how did we get from here to here, right? So maybe something as simple as, I'm just going to put this down, but maybe something as simple as, since here, if you do follow my advice and you say, Lucy was someone you looked up to, here you could say, so knowing that, wanting to be a medical provider from a young age, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Through my research, I realized that, essentially, the versatility, collaborative nature, and direct patient care associated with the physician-associate profession is exactly right for me. And then going back to Lucy is okay. So Lucy showed me that being a healthcare provider means more than just, again, with this, like more than just this, it's just this, listening, empathizing, caring. Like this is the 4th time this, statement is essentially being made, right? So I don't think I would repeat it yet again. So I would just say change this statement to, 1 second, guys.
I guess realizing saying it out loud that they do kind of sound the same.
Yeah, which it's obviously your biggest reason. Like, I'm not beating up on you. It's your biggest reason for wanting to be a medical provider because you want to treat people as a person, not a number. That's a very, very, very good reason. It's just repeating it over and over again in the same way is not, useful. But it obviously is your number one driving reason. So you definitely want to focus on that. Just don't keep repeating it. Actually, give me more context. So here I would say, and TikTok, I'll pick it up in just a second. I just want to type with both hands. So Lucy showed me right here. So here you're talking about, I'm going to comment right here. So I would say transition more smoothly. Say something along the lines of experience with Lucy made you want to be a medical provider from a young age, which led you to research medical jobs, in high school or college, whatever is true for you, right? Then here you're talking about, the things about the PA role that you like. Then here you're going back to Lucy. So here you can even very briefly introduce, then through work or shadow experiences, you saw parallels to Lucy's compassion in the PAs you witnessed, making you even more sure this is the role for you. And then here, I want to build those kinds of relationships of being a provider that patients feel, this is fine. I'm okay with that. So do you see how we're kind of not just repeating the same thing over and over again, but we're talking about like, I want to be a PA because this, I want to be a PA because that. here's what made me initially want to do this. Then this made me realize, this was even a profession. Then this made me realize this is even more of a profession for me. And then we're going to get way more specific. So this is all basically one big introduction. But do you see how that would probably add a little bit more color to this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think there's anything that I'm missing?
I agree.
Okay.
Because I guess I really didn't, because like writing is not my strongest suit. So I guess it was like difficult for me to get my idea across.
Mm-hmm.
What you said would definitely clarify what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Because what you're feeling is obviously the right thing. You wouldn't be in this meeting. You wouldn't be a pre-PA. You wouldn't be taking classes if you didn't care. But communicating that in 5,000 characters, that's the frustrating part. Like the totally unfairly frustrating part. So, which is honestly, like if you think about the whole application process, it's kind of dumb to expect people who want to be medical providers, science people, to be writers. We're not writers. We're science people. It's totally unfair. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is if you can't clearly communicate on paper to, an admissions committee, how are you going to clearly communicate to patients when you're explaining very complex things to people who have zero health literacy? Right? Like, how do you get those complex and personal ideas out of your brain and onto the paper in a way that someone who doesn't know you can understand? So that's why this is so critically important and why it's worth just as much as your GPA on the rubric, right? And even more so in the interview. So you have to be able to communicate, and that's what this is testing, is how well you communicate. So not to put more pressure on you or anything, but that's kind of why this is important. But also, yeah, I understand it's totally unfair that you have to be a good writer to get into PA school. You kind of don't, but that's also why I'm here. So anyway, let's move on. So we're good here. We're going to add that context, exactly why you found the PA profession, what you liked about it. This is very, very brief, not very descriptive, but you're going to be more descriptive later. That's okay. So this is all good. And then you want to be that empathic provider that you mentioned. So there. Next. At first, I didn't know which specialty suited me best. I'm not sure I would necessarily say that. But let's see what you mean in the rest of the paragraph. So I tried as many as I could as a medical assistant. So I definitely would change this intro here. This I actually kind of like. So one, you could probably see this from looking at your application from the description of experiences. So I don't usually say, you should list every single thing you've done. Just in general list, like making a list in your personal statement isn't the best. I'd rather you talk about feelings. I'd rather you talk about what was impactful, in podiatry versus cardiology versus oncology. I'm okay with this, but I'd rather you mention fewer things and talk more powerfully about them. So what is the main point you're trying to get across with this paragraph?
I think the main point I was trying to make when writing this was to show the steps that I've taken to gain experience while preparing myself for a PA. So to show the work that I have put in, to show the different kind of specialties that I have worked alongside of, so that I have insights in, because that's what the main driving point of a PA is the flexibility is what makes a PA more compelling than MD. So that, I think that was the point that I was trying to drive by, of how I like the versatility a PA profession to provide. Mm-hmm. And that I've in my past experiences, I have done similar or almost the exact same thing, where I have helped out around all of these different kind of specialties.
So you're talking about, lateral mobility, the fact that we can work in different specialties, different settings, and how you've done that yourself.
Yes. Okay. To show the similarities and the effort I've put in to try and be a PA.
I see what you're saying, which is okay. I definitely do like that, drawing parallels between your own interests, your own motivation, what you've done yourself, and what PAs do, and especially what's special about the profession. I really do like that. I do it a little bit differently, but I do really like that. I really, especially early on, would really like you to focus more on why the profession is for you, rather than what I've done to prepare for it. So I'm just trying to think what we could do about this paragraph because I do like it. I'm just thinking about it in the context of what we're talking about here. So let's see. So collaborative nature, direct patient care, and versatility. So we're kind of more talking about versatility. So this is all just one big intro paragraph. It's 3 paragraphs, but it's all one big introduction. So first, you're kind of talking about versatility, which is here, which is totally fine. It's the first thing you mentioned. I like that. So I don't think I would say it like this. Let me think of how we would possibly transition from here. So I want to build those kinds of relationships to be the kind of provider patients feel comfortable and confident in. So here we're going to mention about researching the PA profession. So we can kind of call back to that now. So we could say, Lucy showed me that being a healthcare provider means more than just, okay. So this right here, I'm just going to put the phone down for 2 seconds just so I could use both hands to type the comment here. So this right here, erase first sentence. Start this paragraph with, let me see. Mentioning that you want to be a PA. So I'm not going to like give you a quote of exactly how I would write it, but basically, you could even call back to this sentence like building relationships with patients. So maybe mention building relationships with patients or serving patients. And then also mention in different specialties and settings and say that appeals to you as a person. So say something like, building relationships with patients in multiple different specialties throughout their lifetimes really appeals to me. That's like the quintessential thing that PAs do, right? We work throughout the entire lifetime. We work with kids. We work with geriatrics. We work with surgical patients. We work everywhere and through everyone. That's the main thing that PAs are special about, right? In different specialties. So I would say something along those lines. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth or write this for you because that's not what I do. I just kind of prod and direct and ask questions. So I would say something along the lines of, start it with building relationships because you mentioned that here, and then talk about different specialties, different settings, that it's something you really want to do. All right, so that's how I'd start this paragraph. Here, you could even say this as a medical assistant. I've had the opportunity to work with many, different specialties, but I would lead it with something a little bit different, like, even in my work as a medical assistant, I've always wanted to learn more and always wanted to expand my skills to as many different specialties and settings as possible. And that's when you can kind of talk about this. I would probably say an example would be a little more powerful than this, but you have so much space left, you could even add an example here. You could say something like this, and then, you could talk about, an example I'll never forget. Or I've seen some commonalities and some differences between these experiences, like, a specific example from podiatry. Or you could say that, the podiatrist I shadowed cared for his patients just as much as the cardiology, PA, NP, or MD that I shadowed. The patients they had were different and acuity was certainly different, but I really appreciated that they all cared for their, patients. I thought that it would be really good to be able to have a range of both throughout my career, different acuities, different ages, different specialties, and just kind of mention that, but make it a little more personal. Talk about more of what you actually saw. But overall, this paragraph's okay. I would just add a little bit more to it. Do you feel like that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I have some examples in mind I can add on to it.
Definitely. Just make sure the examples fit well. I might even shorten this a little tiny bit. I wouldn't just list quite as much. But, talking about different specialties, how that really interests you as a person, 100% wonderful. That's why you want to be a PA. That's why you're not a podiatrist or an MD. So cool. These diverse experiences, good. So this is a good little summary sentence. So I would put your examples in this section. So good. Okay, next. Of course, patient care was my top priority, and what are patients most scared of? So transition here, I would definitely not say was very smooth. I do like this example, although I would shorten it. And what is the purpose of this paragraph? What's the main thing you're trying to get across to the admissions folks?
how I solve problems. So my problem solving skills and how that I'm open to criticism and how I know that I'm not the best at what I do, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to ask for help, ask like the experts for their opinions, and I want to demonstrate that that I will work hard in their program to get what needs to be done and I'll do it. And if I need to ask help while doing it, I will ask for help.
So you're
basically
trainable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're trainable and you're motivated. Your humility and your hard work are motivated by wanting to reduce pain and by wanting to, serve your patients.
Yes.
Which is exactly right. I'd like you to communicate that exact thing. That's what you're trying to communicate. So this, did you have something you were saying?
No.
Okay. So this paragraph, I do like a lot of it. I would definitely delete the clutch their pearls situation.
I just thought it was funny.
It is funny. It legitimately is. I just don't think it fits here.
Because like, in my mind, I'm like, all right, the admissions committee are reading like hundreds of paper a day. They're all serious, monotone. And then all of a sudden, this one kid just comes up with this and it takes them back. In my head, like, it sticks out. They're like, oh, that one kid mentioned clutch their pearls. I really like his essay. Let me go back and reread it again. That's what I was trying to go for.
I mean, if it means a lot to you, I'm not 100% opposed to it. I personally would not keep that in there. I'd keep it a little bit more professional. But I'm not saying you absolutely have to take it out. I personally would not say that. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's totally up to you. I personally I wouldn't say that. I like to keep things a little bit more on the professional side, especially with this kind of thing. You want it to be personal and emotional, but you want to be professional. Like, I wouldn't say anything in your essay that you wouldn't say to a patient. And I'd never tell the patient, hey, Ms. Jones, why are you clenching your pearls? She'd be like, what? Are you serious? Like, no, you want to be professional. So that's my opinion. Take it for what you will. But I'm not going to say much more about that. So this right here. So you want to communicate with this paragraph that you're trainable and that you're motivated by keeping patients comfortable and taking away their pain, which is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So where did we come from? We came from talking about that you really wanted to work in different specialties that appealed to you. That's very good. Here, I would change first sentence a bit, transition smoothly. You're going to hear me say that over and over again. More smoothly. Say something about, because here this last paragraph, we're ending with basically talking about how, the patient care, the populations, the specialties were different, but what was the same was the care about the patient. So say again, something about compassion, medical care, what we left off on in the previous paragraph, right? Because that's the thing that kind of transitions between these two paragraphs. And then talk about how even though you're not a provider yet, you got to deliver this kind of care, and it motivated you like nothing else has in your life. Taking away pain. Then talk about how scared patients are of blood draws and how you made it your mission to learn to minimize that fear and pain as much as possible. Then end the paragraph with relating it back to PA. This also gave you confidence that you can be trainable and want to learn more skills, knowledge to take away people's pain and fear. All right, so again, we're relating it back to being a PA. Like, I did all of this, I'm motivated by this, And this gave me confidence, and now I want to use that confidence to keep getting more skills, keep getting more knowledge, to keep taking away people's pain,